Today's lesson is Mysteries Carved in Stone, the ancient language of runes. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike. And don't worry, we won't be teaching you a new language today, but we will be teaching you about an old language, which maybe if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings movies might actually be very interesting to you, because these runes are featured in that, and they also come from Old English. This is the language before what we would call modern English was spoken in northwestern Europe.
Exactly. So these are mysteries carved in stone, which basically means these symbols were actually carved in stone. They were embedded in stone using tools and things like that. But if something's carved in stone, it also means that it's inflexible. It cannot be changed. And yes, indeed, this is a mystery that will always be a mystery because we don't really know 100% about these particular letters or symbols. But we are going to be talking about the ancient language of runes in today's lesson. So let's get going here. Let's kick it off by listening to the first part and introduce this topic to you right now.
Mysteries carved in stone, the ancient language of runes. Centuries before cell phones and computers, there existed a writing system that captured people's imaginations. This system, known as the runic alphabet, originated in ancient Germania and later spread to Scandinavia. With their mysterious shapes and meanings, runes served as more than just letters on a page. They served as instruments of magical and divine power, a fact that is reflected in the meaning of the word rune, secret or mystery.
大家好，标题中介绍动词 carve， 它的意思是刻写、雕或是刻的意思。例如The artist had carefully carved his own name into the base of the statue. 该艺术家仔细地将自己的名字刻在雕像的底部。或者 Julia carved her name into the tree. Julia 把她的名字刻在树上。接下来看到动词 originate， 表示发源或是起源。例如 How did the tradition of decorating Christmas trees originate? 装饰圣诞树的传统是怎么发源的？也可以说Researchers are trying to find out where the virus originates from. 研究人员正试图找出这个病毒是源自哪里。再来看到形容词 mysterious， 表示神秘的或是难以理解的。例如 This old journal has mysterious writing that hints at hidden treasure yet to be discovered. 这本古老的日志写着神秘的文字，暗示还有尚未被发现的隐藏宝藏。或是 Tommy saw some mysterious shadow in the sky.Tommy 看到空中有一些难以理解的阴影。继续看到形容词 divine， 它的意思是神圣的、天赐的，但也可以是绝妙的意思。例如 Ethan visited the church every day to pray for divine blessings. Ethan 每天都去教堂祈求神的祝福。也可以说 The food at the restaurant was divine and I can't wait to go back there. 这家餐厅的食物滋味绝妙，我等不及要再去那里了。
Okay, so again, we're back to the title here. These are mysteries carved in stone. I guess that's how they wrote this particular language back in the day. They carved these symbols into stone. I suppose they also figured out ways to write them using pencils or pens or something like that. But in any case, the topic for today is this ancient language of runes. It's an ancient writing system from Europe.
Exactly right. And as most of you would probably know, modern English, the way we know it as a combination of Old English, which is also related to German, and of course the French influence that came in after 1066 when French Normans invaded England. And that's what kind of gave us modern English as we know it today. But this older form of English is also, as I said, related to German and Scandinavian languages, and it goes back more than 1,000 years. And this is where runes come into it. And also runes have a whole other sort of life as not just letters in an alphabet, alphabet that people would use for communication, but also magic and spell crafting as well. So let's find out more about it. It says, centuries before cell phones and computers, there existed a writing system that captured people's imaginations. So there you go. Long before cell phones, computers, long before printed books even, there was a writing system that captured people's imaginations. I guess it still captures people's imaginations today. I know a lot of people who are kind of into runes. You might see rune tattoos on people. Some people try to learn the alphabet so they can write in runes. When something captures people's imaginations, it's really interesting to people. It sort of takes on a life of its own. It develops its own fans. It becomes a hobby of people, that kind of thing. It's not just something useful that they use and then forget about. It's something that people often maybe spend their whole lives studying or appreciating or enjoying or something like that. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a system. It says this system, known as the runic alphabet, originated in ancient Germania and later spread to Scandinavia. So there you go. The runic alphabet is what we're going to be learning about today. And it began, or it comes from, it originated in ancient Germania, or Germania, as some people might pronounce it. Something originates, that's where it comes from. That's where it was born or created, and it could have spread and become popular and moved into other areas of the world, but that is where it came from. And in this case, ancient Germania, this would basically be Germany today, but probably also possibly parts of Poland, Austria, maybe up north into Denmark, in parts of eastern France as well. So this is basically the German people's native region. They might have been called Goths when the Romans were around or something like that. So that's the Central Europe, that sort of central western part of Europe is what we're talking about here. And eventually the runic alphabet spread to Scandinavia. And yeah, when we think of Scandinavia, we're definitely thinking of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, places like that. The Viking lands, in other words.
Right, so it originated in ancient Germania and spread up to Scandinavia. So it was quite common back in that era. And with their mysterious shapes and meanings, runes served as more than just letters on a page. They served as instruments of magical and divine power, a fact that is reflected in the meaning of the word rune, which means secret or mystery. So we're saying that they have mysterious shapes. If you look at a chart that shows all the runes, those shapes are kind of weird. They're kind of bizarre. They are mysterious. If something's mysterious, it's something that we don't really know a lot about. We can't really understand it. It's difficult to comprehend. It's difficult to explain. So indeed, they are mysterious. They don't really look like anything we've ever seen before. And also they have mysterious meanings, okay? They not only represent sounds when you write out words, but they also mean things. Like Chinese characters are kind of the same thing. We use them to write ideas with, but also the characters themselves may have a separate meaning, which could be magical or mysterious, like runes are here.
And they served as more than just letters. So they weren't just letters that people would use to write to each other or record facts or data or information. They served as instruments of magical and divine power. So this is where they get into sort of magic, spell crafting, things like that. And this fact that they were used for magical and divine power is reflected in the meaning of the word rune. When we use the word rune today, it also has a sort of meaning of being secret or mystery. If there's a runic text, it means we can't read it. It's sort of written in an alphabet or a language that we don't understand. So runes are, as we say, more than just letters on a page, letters used to write a language. They are instruments of magical and divine power. An instrument is sort of a tool, an object that you can use to do something. Musical instruments, of course, make noise, but we also might talk about medical instruments that a surgeon might use to do an operation. These are tools for specific purposes. These are tools or instruments of magical and divine power. Magical, of course, doing things that can't be explained by normal science, things that are not normally seen in nature. And divine means coming from the heavens, coming from the gods, godlike power. So you could cast spells or put curses on people and things like that using these runes. That's what people believed back then. And this fact that these symbols were more than just letters is reflected in the meaning of the word rune. As I mentioned, this word rune also has a meaning or a connotation of being secret or something being a mystery or or mysterious. So let's find out more about mysterious and secret runes in the second part of our article. The oldest form of the runic alphabet is the Elder Futhark, an alphabet of 24 runes that is believed to date back to around the 2nd century in north-central Europe. The runic alphabet is called Futhark in reference to the alphabet's first 6 letters, Fehu, Uruz, Thurisaz, Ansuz, Raido, and Kauna. Runic symbols held mystical significance, representing cosmic forces, natural elements, and divine energies. For example, Fehu represents wealth, while Laguz represents water and the flow of energy.
第二部分介绍名词 significance， 表示意义或是重要性。我们可以说 The town lost its significance after the factories shut down. 该镇在工厂关闭后便失去了重要性。又或者说 Despite its historical significance, the building was torn down. 尽管具有历史意义，这座建筑物还是被拆除了。接着看到动词 represent， 它的意思是代表或是象征。例如The color blue is often used to represent sadness. 蓝色常被用来代表悲伤。又或者说 On this map, the stars represent capital cities. 在这份地图上，星星代表首都。再来介绍形容词 cosmic， 指的是宇宙的。举例来说 Black holes are one of the cosmic mysteries that fascinate people. 黑洞是让人们着迷的宇宙谜团之一。又或者说Astronomers study the cosmic event through telescopes. 天文学家透过望远镜来研究宇宙事件。
All right, as promised, we're going to find out more about the runic alphabet. So the oldest form of the runic alphabet is the Elder Futhark, an alphabet of 24 runes that is believed to date back to around the 2nd century in north-central Europe.
Wow.
Okay, so this alphabet has changed over time. We've got older versions and we've got newer versions. Well, the oldest form that we know about of the runic alphabet is one called the Elder Futhark, which is an alphabet of 24 runes that is believed to date back to around the 2nd century. Okay, so if it dates back to, that means that's where it originates from. That's the time it came into existence. If we look at old documents or we use carbon dating or whatever, we can sort of determine that this particular alphabet began around the 2nd century. So that would be like the 100s in terms of calendar years. And that began in north-central Europe, which again is where Germany is, or Denmark, or maybe even the Netherlands.
The runic alphabet is called Futhark in reference to the alphabet's first 6 letters. So in the same way, we might talk about the Chinese alphabet that people often use when learning as Bopomofo or something like that. You take the first 3 letters or first 4 letters and talk about it. In English, of course, we could say I'm learning my ABCDs, but we would also say I'm learning the alphabet, being the collection of 26 letters used for writing English. So the runic alphabet, or this sort of family of letters that is used to write the language, is called Futhark in reference to the alphabet's first 6 letters. And here we are. We're going to do our very best, Roger, to hit all the right pronunciations. Fehu. That's the first one.
Sounds good. Uruz.
Uruz.
And Thurisaz.
Thurisaz, yeah.
And Ansuz.
Ansuz.
And Raido.
Raido.
And Kauna.
Kauna. So there you go. You have those first 6 letters, and that makes up the name of the alphabet, Futhark. All right. So runic symbols held mystical significance, representing cosmic forces, natural elements, and divine energies. And here we kind of get into their magical and divine power. It wasn't just some lines on a page or carved into a rock or something like that to record history or to pass on information. These symbols, these letters, held mystical significance. If something is mystical, it's kind of magical. It's lost in time, where it's hard to separate fact from fiction. It comes from myth as well. It comes from a long time ago. And we're not saying this is fact, but it has a certain cultural meaning, certain cultural importance. And that meaning or importance is also expressed with the word significance. significance. If there is significance to something, it is important in some way, it matters in some way. If you really want to understand the situation, you need to understand this factor and how it relates to other things. So if you find a message that makes no sense to you, you'd say it has no significance to me. I can't understand it. It doesn't lead me to think anything. It doesn't offer me any clues. But if there is significance, then there is an importance there. There is something to pay attention to. And the symbols, they represent cosmic forces.
Right, to represent just means to stand for something. It's not the actual thing itself. It just represents that thing. It is an agent of that thing. And in this particular case, it represents cosmic forces. Okay, cosmic could be referring to the universe, but to me, cosmic kind of means magical, powers beyond our understanding. And so they could represent these cosmic forces, forces from God or from the universe indeed. It could also represent natural elements which occur in nature, and it could also represent divine energies. Of course, divine coming from a god or from gods, and these would be the energies that come from gods, and that's what those symbols represent. If you are some kind of magician or something, you would use those symbols to predict the future or to do magic or whatever.
For example, Fehu represents wealth, while Laguz represents water and the flow of energy. So it could be used as the letter F, Fehu, or the letter L, but these symbols also represent other things. I mean, in English, we don't always say that, but, you know, the letter X could represent certain things apart from just a sound of sort of EKS, X, right? You can use it to represent former, right? My ex-wife or something like that. You can use it to say wrong, right? X circle might be correct, X might be wrong. So in the same kind of way that certain letters might represent or have other meanings outside of language, these symbols had this sort of mystical meanings, and people could actually use them as tools, not tools for writing and expressing themselves, but tools for magic use, for trying to control the elemental forces of nature. So if you wanted more money, you might use the Fehu rune, and if you wanted to represent water and the flow of energy, maybe for healing purposes or something like that, then Laguz, this rune, would be your friend.
Exactly, and they're kind of bizarre symbols, but of course, if you know about these symbols and what they can be used for, you could probably impress a lot of people and make a lot of money being a soothsayer or whatever you want to call yourself.
There's a lot of money in soothsaying these days.
I believe so. People are very uncertain about the future, so they want to talk to such people like fortune tellers indeed. And this might be a way to use those symbols to predict the future for people. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Here comes the third part.
Runes were typically carved into stone, wood, bone, or metal and made of vertical lines with branches stretching out in various directions. They were used to write everything from names to magical spells and could be written both from left to right and from right to left.
第三部分看到形容词 vertical 表示垂直的或是直立的，我们可以说 The teacher drew 2 vertical lines on the board. 老师在黑板上画2条垂直线。也可以说 People travel from all over the country to see the vertical cliffs at this beach. 人们从世界各地前来观看这个海滩的垂直断崖。
Okay, let's talk some more about the runes themselves, the kind of symbols they are. Runes were typically carved into stone, wood, bone, or metal and made of vertical lines with branches stretching out in various directions. Okay, so that's how they were written. They were usually or typically carved into various hard surfaces like stone, like wood, or bone, or metal. And I suppose it was easier to do that using these vertical lines that stretched out in various directions. If something's vertical, it just goes up and down. And if you look at charts of runes, you will see that they do have a lot of lines that go up and down. They are vertical lines for the most part.
There you go. Of course, many letters in English are also created with vertical lines. If you think of the letter I, it's a vertical line with a dot above it. That would be the lowercase or small I. So not too different. You can often see some similarities between some of the runic symbols and, of course, modern English letters, but they would have very different meanings. Don't assume just because they look the same, they have the same meaning. They were used to write everything from names to magical spells and could be written both from left to right and from right to left. So that's a very interesting feature of this language. Of course, most languages go in one direction. People generally write English from left to right, whereas if you're writing Hebrew, you're writing from right to left. Some languages you write from top to bottom and then left to right or right to left instead of on a horizontal line. Some languages you write on a vertical line up and down instead of side to side. So these runes were used to write everything from names to magical spells. I guess you could write your name on something if you wanted to say, hey, this is my axe. Don't steal it. It belongs to Thor. Or you might also write the names of gods. You might use names of powerful people as some form of protection, kind of like a magical spell, like some kind of magical chant or saying or phrase that you can say to try to bring up magical powers from the universe to help you in whatever you're trying to do. And yes, you could write it both from left to right and from right to left, which I guess would have made it a little bit more mysterious.
Indeed, so you could use them for various purposes as they did then, and I think they still exist nowadays. As you said, people have them in tattoos, and I think the Bluetooth symbol is actually a rune as
that
well.
Is too. Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始写到 Centuries before cell phones and computers, there existed a writing system that captured people's imaginations. 在手机和电脑问世前的几个世纪，存在着一种引人关注的书写系统。那这边要介绍两个重点。第一个是文中它用到 there existed a writing system 去表达说存在着一种书写系统。那这个句型 there exists 或者是 there existed 再加名词是表达存在着什么什么，有存在。那它其实是 there 加 be 动词加名词的衍生句型，用来表达说存在着什么，有什么存在时。当我们要表达存在着什么，有什么存在时，动词除了用到 exist 之外，其实还可以用到其他带有存在意味的动词，像是 lie, live,Remain, stand 等等。那要特别注意，动词的单复数必须跟后面的名词一致。举例来说 Once upon a time, there lived a farmer named Jacob. 从前有一位农夫名叫 Jacob。 然后再看一个例句是 There remain several mysteries. 仍然有好几个谜团尚未解开。那这时候我们的动词是配合后方的 several mysteries， 所以呢是用到了复数动词 remain， 而不是单数动词 remains。 好，那第二个要介绍的重点是 capture somebody's imagination， 或者是 catch somebody's imagination， 这表示引起某人的兴趣或注意。那这个片语的字面意思是引起某人的想象，那就是用来表达某事物让人觉得有趣啊，或是感到兴奋，也就是吸引某人注意、引人入胜的语义。例如 Her novels never fail to capture my imagination. 她的小说总是能引起我的兴趣。好，那么同样在课文第一部分有一句提到说Runes served as more than just letters on the page. 卢恩字母的作用不只是页面上的字母而已。然后他下一句又写到 They served as instruments of magical and divine power. 他们被当作魔法和神力的工具。那这边我们就是要介绍 serve as 加上名词，它可以表达充当、担任等等的语义，就跟 function as 加名词或者是 act as 加上名词意思差不多。好，那我们来看它的用法，就是第一个，当主词是事物的时候，它是表达作为什么什么使用，充作什么什么。像 humor can serve as a tool to lighten the mood. 幽默可以作为一种缓和气氛的工具。好，那第二个，当这个主词是人的时候，我们就可以用 serve as 加名词去表达担 担任什么什么的职务。例如 Dave has served as the team's coach for 7 years. Dave 担任那支球队的教练已经7年了。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Carve. Travis decided to carve his name into the old oak tree behind his house. Mysterious. Ida found the locked desk drawer quite mysterious, wondering what it might contain. Divine. The priest's words carried a divine wisdom that gave hope to the people in the church. Significance. The significance of Dr. Patton's discovery was not fully understood at first. Represent. In many cultures, the dove represents peace. Vertical. The vertical stripes on Albert's suit make him look taller.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.